I was curious about Mass Effect Andromeda when I first posted that video about what games I was looking forward to this year, but as time got closer to release, the new Mass Effect just started looking like a mess. From footage all over the internet, the animations looked like they were a mess, the multiplayer looked like a mess, the voice acting looked like a mess, the models looked like a mess, the combat looked like a mess, and the list goes on. So much to the point that when it actually released, this is a game that, to be completely honest, I really didn't want to play. There are a few things I enjoy about the Mass Effect universe as a whole. The visuals are amazing, the armor, weapons, and tech are cool, and from my experience with Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars The Old Republic, Jade Empire, Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate, and Mass Effect, BioWare storytelling is some of the best in the industry. Also, I personally appreciate the effort put into games, no matter how disliked they are by the general public. Knowing people in the industry, I keep in mind that there are people who worked 80-hour plus weeks to get this out, so I gave Mass Effect Andromeda a chance, and I'm glad I did. Mass Effect Andromeda is a sidestep from the series, which is nice because I personally don't want another entry in the original trilogy. More specifically, it takes place after the original Mass Effect and has to do with the attempt to colonize our nearest galaxy neighbor Andromeda, in the search for planets that can sustain life. You play as one of the fraternal Ryder twins, either the brother or the sister. You don't have to play as the default characters you see in the adverts, and you can customize them more than you could in previous Mass Effect games. I remember visiting the forums for the game, everyone would post a picture of their custom character, and they would all look the same. You still see that kind of in the hero gallery, but there is more variety than previous games and you can tweak their faces a bit more. There are a lot of complaints about the characters being ugly, so you have the option to create a decent one for yourself. Strangely enough, there really isn't a character customization in multiplayer mode, which in my opinion is pretty important because players can actually see each other. Now, as for the gameplay, you don't have as much control over your companions like you do in other Mass Effect games, as you no longer micromanage their equipment, which is nice for some, but you also can't directly control them in battle. Making combos out of your team's different abilities was a fun and unique feature of the other games of the series. Also, the traditional class system has been broken down, allowing you to obtain whichever combat, biotic, or tech abilities you want. The combat system itself is decent. There's a sense of momentum when you use your jump jets, and gets even more fun when you get later abilities and weapons. But the cover system is a little wacky and it might bother some fans that the tactical pause is gone. It's definitely more action oriented. But the important thing is that you will be exploring large planets quite a bit and getting into quite a bit of trouble, so thankfully the combat is not terrible. Now on to the main star of the show, the story. It's good. It caught my attention right away, and I'm the kind of person who just skips through dialogue when I can. Gameplay as of late has been more important to me than whatever kind of crazy drama games spew at you these days, but I was really pulled into the narrative here. Other people who reviewed this game out there say the beginning seems like it's thrown together and that the tutorial segments are intrusive, and I'm not sure what they're comparing it to. I feel the main cast introduces themselves well, the beginning was fine, and as I played more it got better, and that the tutorial sections barely interrupt gameplay at all. If anything, there is so much story going on that it's incredibly overwhelming if you don't pause to digest it. There's a lot of missions and quests. You'll find yourself going back and forth between locations a lot, and there are times where you don't know what to do because there's too much to do. I mean, it's better than not knowing what to do because there's nothing to do, but some of the missions you go on seem insignificant, like collect this amount of stuff and go here. That's another thing though. You don't know if one of those insignificant quests will build up into an epic journey. My advice is, take it slow, because if you binge this game, you'll get bored of silly errand quests, revisiting multiple locations several times, and the cinematic loading screens. Pace yourself, take in the vast, expansive environments and the impressive visuals. You are no longer saving the Milky Way galaxy from a threat, you are exploring Andromeda for a place Milky Way colonists can call home. As for the social interactions and decisions you make, the staples of BioWare games, they do feel a little more organic this time around. First of all, the whole Paragon and Renegade options, which are essentially the good guy or bad guy options in the conversation wheel, are gone. There's no longer black or white, right or wrong, you now have various shades of gray and a sense of choice. As for relationships, you don't have to force yourself to please your buddies 100% of the time. You can get them upset, and there are plenty of opportunities to make up for it, invest in relationships, and witness strong character development. Multiplayer features combat similar to what you would find in the campaign, through Apex missions that take place on small maps that have random objectives that are wave-based. If you like wave-based multiplayer games, you might enjoy this, though it feels kind of shallow in my opinion. I generally lean towards the multiplayer aspects of games, but there really isn't enough depth for me to enjoy this. Thankfully, you can send AI strike teams to complete these missions instead, so you don't miss out on loot. Now for the elephant in the room, the weird animations. Yes, they are there, and if you play the game, you will notice them every now and then. Hopefully they try to brush them up eventually, but if not, I still find the game enjoyable. I don't think they were lazy, I just think they underestimated the task at hand greatly. It was a trade-off between quantity versus quality. It's easier to polish the animation of a 20-hour game with set characters and a linear story like Uncharted or The Last of Us than a 60-hour game with a customizable character and dialogue choices. Is it excusable? No, as it's very immersion breaking and it's what a lot of the bad press about this game focuses on. There are other ways they could have handled it, but it's not a big deal for me as I take graphical issues over functional issues any day, and I find them quite comical. If you can look past the criticisms of the lack of polished animations, there's a good Mass Effect game in here. The opinions for this game are all over the place, but about 50 hours in, I've had a pretty positive experience. And like I said previously, I was expecting to hate this game. It all comes down to how much you enjoy BioWare games, because this game feels like it's come from the same formula as the other games from the developer, with some noticeable influence from Dragon Age Inquisition. It's a no-brainer if you're a Mass Effect fan, as this is the first Mass Effect game we've seen in 5 years. If you're not an RPG fan at all, this is not the game to introduce yourself to the genre with. If you pick up this game, just remember to pace yourself, talk to everyone, read every note, and investigate around every corner, because if there's anything great about this game, it's the sense of discovery and exploration. Links will be in the description below. My name is Phunky, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.